Hi, I have in front of me here a slim TV wall mounting bracket. This one can support televisions from 27 inches all the way up to 42 inches. So let's come along and look and see exactly what's involved in this in terms of what comes inside the box. The first thing you'll notice, there's not too much bracketry here, okay? And the reason for that is it's slimline design. It's just quite a clever design, which means that it's just kept the bracketry to its absolute simplest. So the first thing we're going to do here is we'll just look at what comes inside of the pack. So the first thing is there's two parts to the bracketry. There's one bracket that's secured to the wall. There's a second bracket here that's mounted directly onto your television. And when you've bought it and secured using the nuts and bolts here, you can clip the two brackets together and mount your TV onto the wall using that methodology. So what comes exactly with this kit? Well, what you have here is two screws, two plugs and two washers, and that's used for mounting the bracket onto the wall. Next we have a choice between larger and smaller screws, bolts, which would actually use for bolting this bracket here onto the back of the television. Now, it'll depend on what VESA standard we're using. Basically, this bracket here can support VESA standards from 100 all the way up to 400. And that's really talking about the spacing in between the holes. And that's a universal standard across all televisions that they pretty well stick to. So you can just use as a guide if you want to mount TVs. We also have two standoffs here, which are just used for pushing out the television a certain distance from the wall. And once again, they're secured in place by the bolts. And then the final thing here is we would have a spirit level where we'd use this in conjunction with the wall mounting bracket here, and I'll show that in a few moments. It actually comes with a user manual which gives an overview of the contents and also how to mount this onto the wall. It's pretty good and it gives you a fair idea, but hopefully the video will be helpful to you here as well. So the first thing to do is pick the point on the wall where you want to mount your television. You get this bracket, you see there's an arrow on it, it's pointing upwards, and then you have a choice of a range of where you want to drill the holes. So basically what you want to do is you want to put this spirit level up on top and make sure it's totally horizontal or square on the wall. And then you use a pen to mark two different spots on it, probably as far apart as possible. And take it down, use a drill to drill the holes, and then you come along and use the plugs and the screws and the washers to bolt this securely onto the wall. So that's part one done. So part two of this process then is to come along and you want to secure this bracket here directly onto the back of your television. So what you want is, you want the flat part here mounted onto the television. So you're using the VESA standard here. So if you're using VESA 100, it would be here. So basically 100 millimeters apart. 200 would be here, and 400 would be here. So you just use the washers and the bolts here and bolt it on. And what we have here, obviously on the holes on the top of the television, so what we have then is, we have a TV, as you can imagine, which is clamped in position using these bolts pushed through here and screwed directly into the back of the television. And we have another bracket over here that is mounted on the wall. So the next part of the process would be to come along and actually drop this television with the bracket on the back into place. And we'd see it's held fairly securely here. We have a bracketry, but the problem is that there was some downward pressure, upward pressure on this television that just lift clean off. Now, a very clever way of handling this is that they have adjustable locking mechanisms on the bottom, both left and right. So if you imagine this in the back of a television, it'd be hanging there. What we could do is with both strings, we'll just pull them together, and it just allows us to pull it down. It would clip in on the bottom, and what we'll do then is if we release it, it'll lock back in. So we'll try to do this, maybe not so neatly here, it's a little bit hard when both brackets are loose. What we'll do is just pull down, and now we have them secured. So it can't push up, it can't move left or right, and it's quite secure. So you see it's a very, very slim standard design. Now if we come along here, we have these strings. You can leave them hanging behind the television, or if that's not suitable, you can actually use the hooks here and maybe just try to hook them onto the back of the bracket here and have them quite neat like that, okay, out of the way. But it all depends anyway, and that's why the hooks are on these. So you can see it's a surprisingly compact bracket, but it does work and it's extremely popular. It's bought both by the ordinary DIYer, but also by professional installers as well. If you have a flat screen TV, you just want to keep it as tight to the wall as possible, these are ideal. So that's it anyway, an overview of the slim TV wall bracket, and it covers TV sizes from 27 to 42 inches.